Hi guys, we're starting the stream a little bit early. Look at us today, guys. We're here to talk House of the Dragon. It's Sunday. We all know what that means. Come 9 p.m., it's time to talk dragons. Hold on, I feel like my lights are not as bright as they usually are, and I need to fix that. Sorry, I've been adjusting everything this week. A couple different things have been going on for me, but how are you guys? Welcome to the stream. Hopefully the volume, I think I just got an OBS update and I think something changed ever so slightly. And so it looks, when you get like a new user interface and you're like, what is this? This looks new. Anyway, I wanted to start this episode by saying I'm so sorry I missed last week's episode, guys. I had been coming back from traveling and I honestly was my voice was a little bit shot and it was not going to be pretty. I wasn't gonna be able to go for a long time on the live stream, so to kind of make up for that, especially since I told you guys I would do a live stream, but then I had my Twister screening this week, was trying to get that out. So sincerest apologies for kind of missing last week's House of the Dragon. Although to be honest, I kind of have to agree a little bit with what Ando was saying. The last two episodes have not been my favorite, and we'll get into why as the stream goes on. So please, by all means, leave your comments in the chat. I want to discuss with you guys your thoughts, not only on tonight's episode, but last week's episode, of course, and just kind of how you're feeling of the season as a whole, because next week's episode is the penultimate episode. So if I'm remembering correctly, that means this season is 2 episodes shorter than last season, which to some extent makes sense because I feel like last season we had so many time jumps to do that we had I want to say 5 episodes in the old time, 5 in the new. I'm trying to get to the IMDb page so that I can remember correctly, but I'm a little bit we're only doing 8. And to be honest, I get that we have to make it not feel like everything is happening too quickly, but to some extent it really does feel like these last 2 episodes have kind of just been repetitive. We've got Daemon going crazy at Harrenhal. We've got Alicent realizing she kind of has no place in the world at all. Her dad has abandoned her. Her kids don't care about her. Aegon has been kind of just chilling. Recovering. Aemond is power hungry. Cole was barely even in this episode, which was fine by me. Let me tell you something. That was fine by me. But I just feel sort of the last 2 weeks episodes almost could have been this giant episode where you just cut down on certain stuff. And I don't want to say that everything has been bad, because there's been some really great stuff, but I just don't feel like we have progressed a ton in the last 2 episodes. And I feel like they wanted to cut this season down to 6 or 7, and then because under some rule we have to have even numbers of these more limited series seasons. Season 1 had 10 episodes, so season 2 is only gonna have 8, so we are 2 less. And I feel very much like not a lot has progressed. So let me talk about the things that I really, really loved about episode 5, because I'll be honest, I didn't hate episode 5. This was the episode that kind of made me feel a little bit let down because it was 2 weeks in a row. And I still am a big fan, especially for this show and a lot of shows in general. I'm realizing that if they're not coming out on a weekly basis or coming out in more manageable chunks like Bridgerton's kind of half season, I'm literally not able to keep up. Please, I know we're not talking about this, but no spoilers for The Bear season 3, because I still have not caught up and finished it. I watched maybe 2 episodes right away, and then I've been busy ever since it released. And now it's basically been a month that it's been out, which is completely on me for not finishing. But it's just if that had come out weekly, that would have been a priority. And so I do really love that House of the Dragon is doing that. However, when you're doing a weekly release format, it doesn't make sense to have 2 weeks back to back that were like this. Does that make sense? I feel like we were really moving and grooving. And with episode 4, we ended with this huge battle, and now I'm kind of getting the vibe that we're not really going to get a battle until the last episode of the season, which I have predictions as to what that is, but that will require some spoilers from the book. So I will very loosely, I don't want to spoil what I know from the book, because also that might not be how they follow things here in the show. But anyway, okay, I was going to give my thoughts on episode 5. Hold on, I want to start my little recording. still trying to get these into edited formats for you guys, but it's just hard for me to get all the recording pieces and stuff. So I might start with later episodes and go backwards, just to kind of like, I don't know. I might not do it at all. I might not do it at all at this point. It might not be worth it. But episode 5, the thing that really stood out to me was the way that they used food in the background. And this was something I never heard anybody touch on last week at the extra episodes. And this week, I guess we sort of did. But like at the end of episode 4, when Mysaria sends, like, has her lady go into King's Landing and says, like, run an errand for me, right? I believe that was the end of episode 4, kind of, that she did that. And I knew at that point, I was like, Rhaenyra's gonna send them food, because they've been, like, basically starving for, like, 2 weeks in a row. And that's what's also, I think, making it feel like, okay, I get that the tension has been boiling, but I'm also guessing that they're skipping time in between some of this stuff. Like, it's not like, oh, very next day. Anyway, what I'm trying to see is... sorry, hold on. Let me think this through. Okay, so Rhaenyra, I'm like, prediction, she's going to send the food. Obviously, that happened in episode 6. But in episode 5, the thing they did really, really well was use food and show how all of these other small folk are struggling. They're hungry, they're sick, they are in need, basically, of someone to take care of them. And meanwhile, at King's Landing in the Red Keep, we've got Sir Cole using a lemon with salt to clean his sword after the battle of episode 4. We have lettuce being used to be like gauze or like kind of like some type of medicinal purpose on Aegon. We've got, I want to say there was something with oranges that was very much like just a decor piece. Like if you see any of their rooms, they almost always have some type of fruit or wine or something available as a very like, literally if it just rots and goes away and gets thrown away, like nobody cares. Like that's just normal. And I think that's really interesting because that also very much reflects like in history of like the French Revolution, which the actress that played Olivia Cook, who plays Alicent, references in the episode 6 like post-show kind of breakdown. It's very Marie Antoinette, very aristocracy using something as decor and not sharing their riches with people who are genuinely starving to death. And I thought that was such a great touch, the way it was just sort of used in the background in episode 5. To be honest, I don't remember a whole ton else about episode 5 that was really that different than this episode. I mean, everyone is always looking so good in the show, which is such a fun thing. Matt Smith is, I think, absolutely eating up all of his scenes where he's just going crazy. Also, I'm not going to touch majorly on this, but I know a lot of people were talking about a certain opening scene of episode 5, and I feel like that's not as off kilter for the show. Like literally the very first episode of Game of Thrones, what happens, if you can think about what's Lannister stuff is going on at that point, I'm like, that doesn't feel like the most far out thing that this show, series, world has done. So I didn't necessarily find it as shocking, but I get why people did. I mean, there's always that kind of reaction with people for this show because it does go to some crazy places sometimes. But yeah, I think episode 5 to me, I felt more like, okay, we were gonna have a little bit more of a, not filler, but like expository episode and kind of placing Aemond as King Regent and kind of just seeing that play out. I thought what they did with Alicent in that episode was way more interesting than what they did with Alicent in this episode. Like episode 5 felt more like, okay, yeah, no, she is really losing control in that scene where it zooms in on Alicent and the sound is kind of dulling and she's just like enraged that her counsel, her expertise has very much been thrown aside by Aemond. It wasn't necessarily taken super seriously by Aegon, but it definitely is being explicitly disregarded by Aemond. And it's funny too, because of course memes have made this so clear. The fact that, yeah, Alicent, you're on the side that literally doesn't believe in a woman ruling. Like, why did you think that your opinion was going to be worth something here? And I think there's some powerful things that carry over into this episode, like seeing Aemond at a table where he basically has no advisors because he's either fired them or sent them all off to go do stuff. It's very clear that he's not going to take orders or advice from anyone. And so that's super interesting to see. And I like that carryover from episode to episode. But is it really that different from episode to episode? No. Like, that was something that now in episode 6, if we're going to transfer over to episode 6, which the way I'll talk about this one is kind of just each character, kind of go over their storylines and what I feel about him. I very much feel like Alicent's storyline is just, she's lost. Like, she's been lost since she figured out that the prophecy was not about Aegon. It was just, it was like a separate thing that Rhaenyra told her. So that's a completely different, she's been losing it and losing her identity since then. Like, that was the final nail in the coffin. Now everything else just feels like fallout and filler to have her in scenes. And I guess I understand conceptually the storyline of that individual character, but I don't know why we're having scenes with that character when nothing new is progressing. The only thing I will say that this episode really worked for me is I felt it was so powerful when she's talking to her brother, Sir Gawain, about, is it me or is it the Red Keep, and how those two things are inextricably linked. That, like, the way her children have come out of her family, out of this royalty position, is not, it's also, they're tied because Alicent is very much the one who forced them towards the throne, very much who forced the usurper element along with her father. And so she is tied to, like, the throne and the Red Keep and King's Landing. And so it's funny that she's like, oh, is it me or is it the Red Keep and the court? But it's kind of also both, because she is the one that's forcing them into these positions. I mean, Aemond very much has acted of his own volition here. But I think it's fun to get to see a character like her flail, but I don't think she's really even flailing enough. Like, I feel like they're saving a scene where she really falls apart for the end of the season. And I'm like, give it to me now. That would be more exciting if she's, like, losing her crap with Aemond. And I feel like that would be, like, they kept talking about reaching a boiling point and needing, like, things are happening and things are going to change. But it's like, I just don't feel like we're getting anywhere. And I feel like I needed some character storyline to kind of peak, because I just feel like Aegon is going to be out of the mix for the next couple episodes. Aemond, I think I know what's going to happen in the last episode. Potentially something with Aemond and Daemon. I don't know. That's my prediction. You can look into that further if you'd like. But I am like, okay, so I kind of feel like I know where that's going. And even Aemond, it's like, we know he's evil. We know he tried to kill his brother. I don't necessarily need a scene where he's trying to weaken his brother's recovery, because I know that he wants his brother dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that he wants to be Prince Regent. You don't necessarily have to show me that again. Like, you showed that to me once. And I think this show has always been great about showing and not telling. And that's something that has made Game of Thrones the series that it is, and allowed for House of the Dragon to be such an excellent show. But I'm like, if you've already shown it to me more than once, or in a very clear way, I don't know that I need to keep getting it again and again. I liked the confirmation of Alicent's other child, and I'm kind of interested to see if that character comes into the fold, or if it's literally just the fact that, like, oh, hey, like, if you're not raised in this crazy environment by Alicent and forced to be on the throne, and you're not actually having to, like, be a part of a war, maybe you can be, like, a decent human being and you can be fine and not crazy. I don't know, and I'm interested to see. Also, I just feel like Otto is just gonna pull up and be like, hey guys, did you miss me? Like when somebody gets pulled back into, like, Bachelor in Paradise. Like, that's how I just feel Otto's return is gonna be like, hey. So I'm looking forward to that. The other characters, I guess the other scene that happens with Alicent is kind of like where her and Helena almost die, but I'm kind of getting tired of people almost dying, which I know we had another death in this episode. Rest in peace to Sir Stefan. Listen, say whatever you want, but that man understood. Say whatever you want about his pride trying to get on a dragon, right? He really did take his oath of the White Cloak seriously, unlike other people. Kristen Cole, I'm talking to you, sir. Sir Stefan? Yes. He understood the assignment, and he was willing to die for his queen. And not because of some glory play for himself. He doesn't know much about dragons. And, I'm kind of getting the impression that no one really told him, like, how to go about that. I also feel that the number one reason that it didn't work for him and who it did work for, which we'll get into another second because Ando has a great comment about that, is the fact that I think Sea Smoke knows that Laenor is not dead. Like, the dragons have to have a sense of connection to their rider, and I don't know that Sea Smoke can necessarily go and find Laenor, but I don't think that the way that they fooled all the humans that Laenor is dead, I just don't think that that works for, I don't think that works for the dragon. Like, they have to know that that bond, like, you cannot tell me that a dragon is capable of having the bond that Meleys and Rhaenys had. Like, basically both saying, like, we're gonna die, right? Like, we're gonna die. And then tell me that Sea Smoke doesn't know that, oh, Laenor is not just, I think there's probably, like, a distance in that bond. However, I think the reason that the rider is who the rider is, obviously, is that there's some type of, like, I don't think that Sea Smoke thinks that Corlys's, like, out of wedlock son is Laenor. I think that the dragons put together that they basically have a very similar bloodline, and therefore, like, you're the only person I'm gonna accept. And it's just so funny looking at the dragons too, because I just know Sea Smoke was like, dude, this other guy tried to tame me, and, like, that's crazy, so I had to come find you, and, like, let's get it going. And Ando made a great comment about not seeing Adam. Thank you. That's the name of Corlys's bastard son, Adam, or one of the two. Not seeing Adam claiming Sea Smoke is a weird decision for a show about dragons. I liked the play of it, though. I liked the feeling of how unbelievable it is that they've just seen this dragon literally kill a man who tried to tame it, and just hearing that off screen it's happened. I do get the fact that, like, not claiming it is a little bit crazy, but I feel like we're probably going to get a scene with if Rhaena decides to go. I totally even forgot that the Rhaena scene happened. Like, so much is happening in these episodes, and I just don't think it's all being paced. I can't tell if it's not being paced well, or if they should have just, like, I feel like with these two episodes, you could have made it a 1 and 2 parter, and you could have just, like, put all of, like, intersperse Daemon going crazy, because I feel like that's, like, an important through line. Intersperse, like, Rhaenyra's plan with Jace and with Mysaria, and kind of intersperse those, and then that's fine, and then you can kind of get, like, I don't know, I guess they intersperse them well. I'm just saying, like, some of the scenes I just didn't need 2 of, I feel like, and I feel like I'm getting double, but I feel like we're going to get that scene with Rhaena, and possibly if Adam's brother, whose name I don't know, if he's going to tame a dragon too, because if Corlys is going to be like, hey, so Rhaenys is dead, I can tell you guys this now, because, like, he has no shame, although I think that the other brother, the one that was shaving his head, is going to be the Driftwood heir. But I'm just like, anyways, I get what you're saying, Ando, and I think you make a great point. Like, it is out of character for the show to be like, hey, somebody's riding a dragon, but you didn't see it. However, I think the way that it played and the information was given as shock to our other characters, it made sense. But I then feel like it's like a cheap pull for the end of the episode. And I guess the reason that Rhaenyra runs off is because she's like, oh, I guess maybe she's thinking that Laenor came back, which would be an issue for her. Or I don't know if she's just like, she's in such a state of shock that she leaves. So I think that's important that the viewer feels that level of shock too. Like, not like, oh, we saw it happen and now we have to wait for Rhaenyra to catch up. And then, but then I'm like, girl, why are we flying away? And, like, I like the tension of Rhaenyra basically wanting to be Daemon and Daemon wanting what Rhaenyra had, and kind of them being these two halves of this whole, like, I liked the show telling us that, but I feel like, again, we could have kind of articulated that ourselves. And also now I'm like, oh, Rhaenyra just feels to me like she's gonna get reckless because Daemon is so out of it that, like, Rhaenyra's only option is to get reckless. I don't know. And next we'll move on to Daemon's storyline, because Nick's saying he's a bit bored. I'll get to everyone else's full comments. Nick and Ando, you guys are giving me so much to talk about. I so appreciate it. Nick is saying that he's bored of Daemon's storyline. And I'll say this. I obviously love Daemon. Daemon's probably one of my favorite characters in the show. If not, no, he's my favorite. He's 100% my favorite. I love him. He's my man, okay? I love him. And I love Matt Smith. And yes, Matt Smith is delivering wonderful performances, but, like, that scene, here's what I think. I think Daemon's going to die by the end of the season. I feel like that's been made explicitly clear from the show. And I feel like now it's just like, oh, we're going to get to see him like righting his wrongs in this dream form, but continue to like frick things up for Rhaenyra, which I guess kind of makes things interesting that like she has this husband that's like running amok. But I kind of wish if he's just going to like die at the end of the season, that there would have been some type of like continued argument or something for her to go off of, like, hey, Daemon is reckless and it gets him killed at the end of the season. Say that's what Rhaenyra learns. So like next season I'm going to be super strategic. I don't know. And I just feel like with Daemon, again, at first I was like, oh, these scenes of getting to see Millie Alcock and Patty Constantine, I think that's his name. Yeah, to see them come back. They're such lovely actors. Their roles are so beloved. Like, it's fun to get to see them back. But it really feels like it's almost like these visions are being fan service. And I don't think that they thought through the fact that this storyline just, like, I just don't think they're going to, like, not talk about it next episode. And I feel like it's going to be an important factor of the final episode. So I just don't know why they're, like, hammering it so hard. Like, I don't know. Like, I like the storyline they're telling. I just feel like so much of last week's episode and this week's episode could have been condensed to make a more efficient, interesting episode and have 7 episodes in the season. Like, I would love to know what this obsession is, because I'm just like, it kind of almost makes sense sometimes to like have your finale be this like what, I don't know. It just, everything being in twos is kind of starting to feel like 3 and 4 feel like the strongest of this season thus far to me, and these last 2 feel the weakest, which like I guess leaves a lot of room for the penultimate episode and the finale to be like really great, off their rockers, like so excellent. But it's so frustrating to kind of 2 weeks in a row. I don't know. I feel like I'm complaining a little bit too much, and it's not like I didn't enjoy the episode. I'm just a little bit let down by the fact that like we slowed our roll so much. Like, we had such an exciting episode 4, and now we've had 2 basically like, here's the state of things, not a lot of progress, or like in Ando's case, like the progress that is getting made is happening off screen, which is fair for a little bit of shock value. I don't know. And I also feel like there's a level of, and I said this in episode 4 with Aegon's like incident, and then I get that not everyone is going to watch the promo for next week's episode, but I think whoever is cutting those is undercutting the ending and the shock value of some of the endings of these episodes. So, for example, episode 4, I feel like we focused on, okay, the ending shot was like Kristen Cole on his knees, Aemond walking away, and Aegon basically lying in like a smoky grave, right? Like, that was a great visual to end that episode on. What a sense of like defeat. Like, yeah, we won the battle, but like we have this huge amount of defeat. And then the first freaking shot of the sneak peek, the promo for next week's episode is, oh, is Aegon alive? Like, and they're like in his, and you're like, okay, we know that you're going to make him alive. I feel like it's just like, it's insulting to our media literacy that like, I can see how there's going to be certain things like Game of Thrones is not above a character gasping at the end of an episode and like moving on. But I think the struggle for me is like, you literally are intentionally stitching onto the streaming version of this episode. You are, and I don't know how it airs on cable. I don't know if that's the same way, but you're choosing what you're showing us in that sneak peek. You could entirely just cut out Aegon's storyline and cut around it. You can make characters say different things or cut lines out of context, and it just feels like you're cheapening it. So that was for episode 4. I was like, oh, okay, you undercut that, but that's fine. Like, great ending of the episode. And here, I want to be like, great ending of the episode. Like, we didn't get to see the rider, and Rhaenyra rides off, and she could be in danger. And the assumption is, again, if she dies, all her advisors have been telling her, the war will basically be over. There will kind of be no point for us to continue if you are captured or die. However, the first shot of this one, of the next thing, is like, oh, Rhaenyra in a new outfit back at Dragonstone. So we know that she survives and she's not like mortally wounded. Like, I'm just saying, you're removing information that I feel like you shouldn't, or you're including information that I feel like you shouldn't, to just empower the ending of the episode, which is good. And I don't know. That's kind of a struggle for me. When it comes to Rhaenyra's storyline, I agree with you, Nick. Like, I love the idea of her as this like warrior queen. I like her kind of taking the pieces of everyone she knows, of like Daemon being this crazed guy, Viserys being this kind of like ruler who kind of did destroy her family in some ways and kind of made things crazier, but a peaceful ruler, taking different elements of different characters, because there's so many people with parallels. But Rhaenyra is a very interesting character where like she has connections to basically everybody else in the story, but she's not, I don't think she necessarily has a parallel. Like you could argue, I guess, that it would either be Daemon or Alicent, but she doesn't have one in the way that Aemond and Daemon do, right? Or the way that like Aegon is kind of with his wounds being connected to Viserys. We don't have that same thing with Rhaenyra. And so I feel like she's taking on all of these elements of the people who have come before her, who have tried to get her in this position of power to be the queen. And that's really fun and that's really interesting. And I love the idea of her being this a little bit more of the warrior queen. Again, this is why I need to get into this, because I would love to know some of the things the direction of the show might be going towards. I just don't think we're going to see her as warrior queen this season. Like, I think that there's more to tell with the strategy element of the story. And I also, again, this is something else, again, not to complain, but like how do I put this in an intellectual way, a well thought out way? Basically, this show has dragons in it. And this episode, we did see dragons. And I don't know that there's necessarily been an episode where we don't see dragons at all, but I feel like we are, Rhaenyra has basically been under house arrest. And like, I get that that's supposed to be frustrating for us because it's frustrating for her, but I'm sort of like, can she not be doing more actions? I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. I love Rhaenyra. I'm still Team Black. Don't even get me confused for Team Green. Like, I do not want to be a part of that mess. Don't even talk to me about the Queen of Fishes. I don't want to be associated with her. Please do not even throw that at me. But the thing that I'm struggling with is like, Rhaenyra is basically just like complaining. And I'm like, girl, get new advisors. Corlys, did he even say anything as the Hand? That kind of pissed me off too, because that was the end of last episode. I was like, oh, you're going to be the Hand. Where's Baela? Does anyone know where she is? I would like to know. And it's just things like this that you're like, okay, you set up him being the Hand. Why do that last week's episode when there was nothing paying off this week's episode? And then Rhaenyra, like, I get the frustration. I think that's supposed to be the relief of the end of this episode, is like, oh, she's actually on her dragon. Like, she's not necessarily going to listen to anybody anymore. But I'm just like hearing her complain about Daemon. I'm also like, why is nobody reaching to Daemon? Like, I don't understand. There's too many people at that castle sitting around to me. Like, I'm so sorry, but could Rhaena, like, she's not doing much. She could just be like, hey, Dad, can you reach out to your wife? Because, like, I'm stuck here now. Like, nobody is reaching out, and I'm a little bit confused. They keep talking about, like, she's like, ugh, everyone wants me to go get Daemon. Yeah, babe, because Daemon is crazy, but, like, I don't know, maybe we need some crazy things to happen. Anyway, that was just kind of, I think that's the problem of when you have an episode like episode 5 and episode 6. I'm fine in an episode that is important to progress the plot or progress the politics of the show, and that is always what I'm about for Game of Thrones, right? Like, I love seeing the dragons. The VFX work on the dragons, or the Wervins, or whatever you want to call them, are so incredibly good, like, so impressive. But I struggle so much with this concept that, like, we're just going to do 2 episodes back to back with strategy and politics, and not think about, hey, maybe could we be doing one of these, like, I don't know, like, Daemon and Alice's conversation could have totally taken place in the castle. I think they just wanted to show Corlys, or no, oh my god, these characters' names all sound too familiar. I know we all talk about that, but Caraxes, I think they just wanted to show Caraxes. I get it, but I'm like, he didn't even interact with his dragon. And I'm like, is Caraxes just, like, what is Caraxes doing while Daemon goes crazy? Is Caraxes going crazy? Would love to know. Anyway, I'm trying to run through the rest of the characters really quickly. If there was anything else I felt the need to say. I think Rhaena's going to go try to tame that wild dragon. And I don't know if that's going to kill her or if it's going to go well. I don't know. Because they've kind of been like, well, it's dangerous. But I'm kind of like, well, it seems like everyone on Corlys and Rhaenys' bloodline has had pretty good success other than Rhaena. and like maybe she just went after the wrong dragon, you know, like maybe this wild dragon is for her. I honestly liked Laris and Aegon's little like team up. I love their team so much more than Aemond and Cole's team. Like I literally hate the two of them so much. Aemond was more interesting to me when he had this revenge plot line, and now it just feels like I thought he was such a smart character, and now they're making him out to be like he doesn't get the small folk. And I feel like I would have liked to see something where he's actually having to face the small folk and realizing that they don't care about him, rather than these other random things. Also, if this Mr. Targaryen guy, like random, the guy that was claiming to be like a Targaryen like cousin or whatever, if he doesn't come into the fold other than just being some random town folk, like I don't need two perspectives of the town folk, the small folk. Like give me something else. Who else did I not talk about? I guess that was it. I guess that's basically everybody. Let me go through y'all's comments because you guys have a lot of stuff. Not much has happened for there to be 8 episodes. Wow, they really waste screen time. Time management is so random. This is where, okay, my husband and I were talking about this when this season was coming out, because I think I was complaining at the time that Bridgerton, like, there's going to be probably 2-year wait for the next season, and it just feels crazy that we've gone into this realm of television that, like, sure, we hit a peak of TV and we're doing incredible work, but, like, it taking too long to get these seasons. And I was like, well, actually, House of the Dragon isn't coming out, like, too long after the first one, which it's technically, like, 2 years, but a little bit under, because that was in fall time, if I'm remembering correctly. So, like, let's say 2 years, okay? And I was like, well, and that's with the strike and stuff. But then I remembered that they were filming during the strike, and that was like some of the controversy. And now I'm wondering if, and I don't like to be accusatory, but I do sort of feel like these last 2 episodes have made me question. Like the first 4 episodes, I was like, you know what? The writing is at least up to par of what I've expected. Things are happening with the characters that I expect to happen. But now, as we've gone into episodes 5 and 6, I am questioning a bit if working during the strike didn't hinder this in some ways, or didn't lead to some possible issues. And so that's just that. Like, I think the end of the season is probably going to be great, but I'm just like, the time management and the pacing, and I totally agree. Like, what did we not look at the fact that we have 2 episodes back to back that feel like virtually the same episode? Again, I understand that there are individual important events that have been different across the 2, but I'm just like, stop cutting back to Driftwood or Driftmire or whatever that is called. I can't remember the name of Corliss's place, but like, let's not cut back to that. Like, no, I don't want to see people working on ships all the time, quite frankly. Like, I don't know. Yeah, and Nick said, I'm going to need the Daemon arc to go ahead and conclude. I think this episode was the closest thing to being filler. We know Aemond wants Aegon out of the way. We only get to see that one attempt at claiming a dragon. Sorry, guys. It was really just people in rooms again. I do feel like a strong part of, or a good majority of, oh, sorry, Nick, I'm trying to make your comment longer, but I need to, sorry, too many things just happened at once. I had to sneeze, and that just threw me off. I agree. I think this episode is the closest one to being filler. I don't think that it's bad. Like, I have definitely watched worse episodes of TV, or episodes of TV I did not enjoy as much, or that I'm not as engaged with the characters. So I'm not trying to take that away from the show. The problem, again, I'm having is kind of what Nick's pointing out. Like, we've had these scenes before. Like, I don't need to be reminded that Aemond has no heart anymore. Like, he tried to kill his own brother. He told the dragon to wait. That told us everything we needed to know. And then to just put the knife, like the twist the knife, was him watching his brother and his dragon both look dead. And the only other real follow-up to the story that I need about Aegon is, I mean, like, I want the actor to collect his checks because he did a great job. So I love that they're including him. But I'm sort of like, other than him just in the background, like, struggling with Alicent, that's kind of all I need. And, like, again, I've seen Alicent, like, again, one shot of Alicent sitting next to Aegon's bed, hoping for him to get better, very much is reminiscent of her sitting next to Viserys. Again, love the parallels, guys. You're doing such a great job. However, I'm struggling to know, not that everything in television needs to be efficient. Like, you can have things that are a bit gratuitous or just like for the sake of including, like just having them there. But like, make that something that's more interesting. Kind of like Nick's saying, like, don't just make it people in a room having the same conversations. Include a set piece or include a new perspective, or like, I don't know, throw a dragon in there or something. Although I think if the whole episode was just like, here's a dragon, I'd also feel a little bit robbed out of an episode. Like, I think that's just how I feel here. Don't tell me you're giving me 8 episodes when you're actually just repeating 2 episodes. You know what I mean? Agreed with you, Nick. I don't think the episode was bad. Cool to see Seasmoke claim a rider instead of the other way around. Got to see Rhaenyra finally having a moment of pleasure in all this misery, even if it was brief. I know. I do enjoy her and Mysaaria's like relationship and their scheming. Like, I do like to see them scheme, and I like to see her with somebody who's on her side, because even though Rhaenys did try to give her advice, it did come from this position of somebody else who had also at one point was supposed to be like an heir to the throne, or somebody who was also in the line, and where now you have a character who literally is completely removed from that. And she feels, to me, the White Worm Mysaria feels very much like a Tyrion. Yes, hold on. Yeah, Tyrion, like a Tyrion-esque character who just is really interesting, fun to get to see the growth. And I like her perspective of how to appease the small folk. And I like the fact that Rhaenyra isn't necessarily, she doesn't know how to do all these things by herself. However, when you're trying to make an argument to the audience that like Rhaenyra is kind of the rightful queen and like Aegon and the green side is kind of falling apart, to have Rhaenyra kind of basically have the same complaints that Aegon had of like, nobody will let me leave my castle and ride my dragon, and like, ugh, my life's so hard, like, ugh, my husband ran off, like, I'm like, can we not have, like, I get that she's not supposed to be super, super great at everything because she wasn't necessarily included in all of her dad's counsels and stuff, but I would love for her to be like, I don't know, scheming in a way that doesn't just feel like every other character is running the plot and she's just there. Like, I like, I'm excited that we're moving out of that next episode. And again, I don't want to sound stupid. I understand why she needs to kind of be cooped up in Dragonstone. But it's just, it's hard to, even for people who are like solid Team Black, to be like, yeah, so your main character is not really pushing the plot forward. Like, it's kind of everyone else around her. Like, I think the one thing she tried to do, and I guess you could say she was defeated, was trying to put Sir Stefan on the dragon, which, like, rip to that guy. Again, he understood an oath. He understood what having the White Cloak meant, and he died for his queen. He died in servitude to his queen. And I appreciate that for him, rather than Kristen Cole getting a new fancy necklace and, like, running amok. Okay? I'm sick of him. And thank God we didn't see him that much in this episode, to be honest. Because even him, his character to me is like, okay, he used to be this kind of like self-important, stupid head that none of us like. But then he is now kind of like, he's kind of just depressed because he has to keep fighting battles that he knows he's going to lose. I don't know. All of these could be interesting character dynamics. It's just like, it feels like we're getting the point driven home. And I don't need it driven home. Like the small folk, I need some excitement. I need fresh meat. I need new information to get me excited and to get me to keep going. Nick says Daemon is the same man we saw almost take on the Crab King and his army by himself. Now he's just a crazy guy in a wet hall, hoping this all pays off. Again, I love Daemon's character, and I liked initially all the like Luigi's Mansion memes and like Daemon over here talking to himself. But it's getting a little old, and it's getting a little bit like, we get that he's going crazy and we get that he's supposed to be making amends. Again, if you had just given me these visions rather than last week's visions, swap them out. What do you miss? Like, if you just got rid of all of last week's visions and you only had these now with Viserys, that hits the turning point of like, oh, he's going to like try to make, and it just feels like too, we're like repeating scenes of like, oh, Daemon should have been here, I'm sorry. And again, they're very emotional. I love seeing the actors back, and I love seeing Matt Smith cry and laugh and go crazy. Like, I love just seeing him on screen, but it is frustrating when it feels like, okay, they didn't write really anything new here. It's just kind of a continuation. Like, I genuinely feel like all of these Daemon scenes were all filmed like back to back to back. Like, they brought Matt Smith in for like 2 weeks, filmed all of them, and then probably did whatever he did at the very beginning of the season and the end of the season. Like, they just kind of were shooting him while they were doing everybody else's random stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it feels so disconnected to at this point, and I don't feel like any threat from what he's actually doing. I don't know. I really just feel like I don't think this was a bad episode of television. I just think that the show should have known better that 2 episodes back to back of the same storylines progressing at a snail's pace is not really premium quality. You know what I'm saying? And agreed, Ando. Like, everyone's like, oh, the war is inevitable. Like, oh, we can't get rid of this war. Like, we're trapped. This war is happening. The only war that is happening is the war between the small folk and Alicent. Like, quite honestly, like, that is the only thing that I'm seeing happen right now. The 2 sides are kind of destroying themselves internally, and the small folk are struggling, and, you know, Queen Rhaenyra, being the true queen that she is trying to help her people out. Alicent almost gets, every time she brings her daughter outside, her daughter has a traumatic experience. I'm like, Alicent, stop bringing your Helena out of the castle. Like, let my girl hang out in the castle. Like, leave her alone. Also, I feel like they set up Helena to be such an interesting character with all these, like, prophetic visions, and I don't feel like we've gotten anything recently from her. Like, I feel like she's like, oh, I mean, I'm trying to think, what were her one about, like, this one has stopped singing. She's talking about the crickets, and I guess, like, maybe is that supposed to be, like, Aegon is, like, never really gonna be, like, a part, like, I don't know what that's supposed to be. Maybe that's kind of like a prophecy thing. Anyway, I just feel like they set that up so well, and then it's like they keep setting things up. That's what's bugging me. We're setting things up. I'm waiting for them to pay off, and now I'm waiting 2 episodes for them to pay off. Or now I'm waiting 3 episodes for them to pay off, or I don't know. And I'm just frustrated. Okay, I am not going to agree with you here, Ando. I don't think it has destroyed the season. I just think that they keep going back to it because they like Matt Smith as an actor, and they like doing these, like, mystical fan servicey kind of, like, storylines, and they need filler, and that's the thing that makes the most sense as filler, because you actually don't know how much time is passing. But I just feel like we're getting a little bamboozled. I don't think that it has destroyed the season. I think some of those scenes have been really great. I just think that it feels like a crutch that the series is currently using to kind of to imitate Larys a little bit. Like, that's kind of the crutch, and, like, the rest of the season of not anything else happening right now is the clubfoot of Larys, and, like, we're kind of just moving forward slowly. Ando, I'm team dragon. Greens and black waste too much time. This is another thing, is I'm like, again, I like the concept of a dragon claiming its own rider, because that's supposed to be, like, kind of a mutual relationship anyway. But you're telling me that the dragon is now on its own getting more done? This is what I'm saying. Like, can Caraxes not just be like, yo, guys, like, Riverland people, I'm so sorry that my dad had you guys pillage everyone. I'm so sorry. Like, can we just, like, get along? Like, is it the dragons that are going to have to, like, save this one? I don't know. Like, it's just, it does feel, like, a little bit ridiculous at times. Favorite moments was Larys talking to Aegon. Yes. So great. I thought that was a really powerful scene. Like, I agree with you, Nick. Like, this is the only scene I needed with Aegon this episode. I did not need the Aemond one. I didn't need Alicent in there. I needed the Larys scene to be like, hey, I thought that was a great point. Like, Larys is such a character that's so interesting, and, like, do more of this where, like, he wants power so badly. He killed his own family. Now nobody trusts him, even though, like, Alicent has found him useful in the past. He kind of is always looking for a better allegiance. And now he's like, there's 2 kings. One king has already kind of gotten rid of him, so he's going to go to the other one. But then he has this, like, sympathetic connection to Aegon, with both of them having, like, severe injuries that disable some of their, like, mobility with both of their legs now at this point. Like, that's such a great connection point, and a way to make Aegon back into the story of, like, he's kind of got this eyes, ears, and, like, mouth for him with this connection to Larys. even though Aegon wasn't really smart enough to see it in the first place, I think he now sees things a lot differently from the point of this injury. So I liked that scene. I loved that scene. Like, that was probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole episode. It's just like a little bit of a struggle to be like, we had to go through everything else repeating to get there. Like, that was a little bit frustrating to me. I'm glad that other people possibly felt the same way. Rhaenyra has too much pride to fly over to Daemon. Like, come on, there's war. This is my thing, is I'm like, put I don't know why Jace was supposed to go there, and then they like had their like Ocean's 11 plan of like, let's get one more person. That didn't work. I don't know why the immediate reaction to that was not, we have to get Daemon back. Like, I don't understand this stubbornness on Rhaenyra's part. Like, everyone believes that you're queen. Like, can you just figure out what's going on with Daemon? So like, if you could tell your advisors like, hey, he's going crazy and also wants to be king for himself, then like, I don't know, like, maybe send someone to kill him. I don't know, like, whatever you have to do. You're right. It's war, baby. Like, let's get things done. Let's get things moving. It just doesn't feel like anything is happening right now. And it feels like everything is taking a little bit too long. And I think it's because they wanted to, here's my belief. They wanted to separate Daemon and Rhaenyra, because Rhaenyra without Daemon is a less strong claim to the throne. With Daemon, and add in Rhaenys and Corlys, like, that was like a no battle. So I get that you have to weaken Team Black and kind of watch Team Green continue to kind of like break itself apart from within. Like, I get that. I understand that dynamic of the season. However, Daemon could have done like actual accomplishments. Instead, he just flew off to Harrenhal, has gotten nothing done. In fact, he's made things there worse. He's going crazy, and he's been there he flew there in what? Episode 2, episode 3, like, he's been there for a hot minute, and they're showing him go crazy, but they gave us a vision the first day he was there. So it's not like we've even gradually seen him go crazy, and we've known from the beginning that he's having these visions. It wasn't like like, one of his first visions was seeing young Rhaenyra. Like, we knew he was crazy at that point. Like, come on, guys, things weren't happening gradually enough there. And my thing is, I think important things are going to happen for Daemon. I mean, Alice told him, you're going to die here, dude. Like, you're going to die here. So I'm like, okay, you've now basically confirmed for us that prophecy is true, because you're not letting this man leave. Like, literally, he was this close to getting on his dragon. This close. And Alice was like, let me call my owl. Let's stay here. Da-da-da. And it's just, I don't know. Like, again, 1 or 2 less episodes of Daemon there probably still could have been effective. I'm always going to like seeing him on screen, but I don't think it's necessarily serving the story as much as they think it is, or as much as they want to use it. 2-year wait for the momentum of the season 1 finale to get crushed. Again, I don't think that the momentum of the finale was crushed. I just think that this season is hitting a really low point when you only have 8 episodes of like one of the biggest shows in the world, you literally have no room for missing, in my opinion. Like, other people would say, well, oh, they've delivered such good thing. No, like, you've created an expectation and you've given people 2 less episodes. Like, I can't think of an episode of last season that felt like filler. And here we are with less episodes and we have more stuff that feels like filler. You know what I mean? Like, that's frustrating to me. I agree. I think the strike hurt these last 2 episodes. Corlys' son Alan. Thank you, Ando. So it's Alan and Adam. Hair scene was a cool nod. His hair is silver like his dad. See, I think this is fun. I think this is cool. I liked that one of the brothers has the white hair, like the other one doesn't. So there's kind of this blending in. But I kind of agree with Adam. Like, dude, it doesn't matter. And so I'm getting that now. Like, oh, okay, they're kind of like, one of them is going to be the heir to Driftmark, and one is going to be a dragon rider. I think that's fun and that's cool, and I like their characters being involved, but I almost didn't need, I feel like I've seen them a lot this season too, and I didn't even put together who they were until Rhaenys was like, you have beautiful eyes. Was your mother beautiful? And I was like, oh, that was the point in which we were supposed to realize, but it just feels like, okay, I don't know how many of these things I should pick apart in retrospect, because like, would I care if one of these was a dragon rider if I hadn't seen them the whole season? Probably not. But I don't know, some of these just feels like the pacing of everything up until the last two episodes are now making me question other things in the series that I'm like, was my excitement just there or whatever? I genuinely think these last two were not horrible episodes. I just think they were bad for the show, and I think they were paced poorly, and I think they were too repetitive. And that's where I'll probably leave that opinion. Yeah. That's why he was wearing the head covering. He doesn't want anyone to know. I figured that's like, he has to get a clean shave on that to like really get rid of that. And any type of regrowth of the hair is gonna alert everyone else to what he's thinking. Guys, I think that's all of my thoughts about this episode. I apologize if this review came off a little bit negative. I just genuinely feel like the next two episodes will probably be very big and exciting, and a lot will be there to talk about. So I hope you join me for next week. Please subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell so when I go live or upload a video, you get notified. Thank you all so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Even if this wasn't our favorite episode of the bunch, I'm glad that we got to talk about it all together. And I, again, am so sorry I missed last week's stream, but thank you for letting me give my, like, 2 cents. It kind of honestly worked that I didn't talk about last week's episode because it was so similar to this week's episode that it kind of worked. So these two will just sort of be a little bit connected, in my mind, and probably yours. And, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, or if it's into the morning when you're seeing this, or it's tomorrow when you're seeing this, happy Monday. Have a great week. I'll have some new content this week regarding Deadpool and Wolverine to talk about, as well as some other videos that I'm still trying to finish editing. I'm hoping by the end of July I can kind of be caught up on what I thought I was going to get done this month, and we can kind of move and groove into August and the rest of the year together. So thank you guys so much. Sorry for a little ramble at the end there. I hope you have a great evening, and I'll talk to you guys when I see you next in a video or live stream. Bye, guys.